foundation money or who wants to, donate to this cause should definitely contact me.
Info.com Chinese.
Parents have a strong influence on you, or when you were in the rebellious age, how did you cope with that?
My rebellious age. I would say that the way I rebelled, I don't know if I could even call myself a rebel, but I often retreated to the library because that was my best escape from reality. I mean, I loved stories. I don't know if that could be really considered a rebellion. Maybe I did it in a very typical, model Chinese American way, but I was always bookish by nature. I mean, as a small child, I used to go to the library and spend just day after day in the summers reading. And I would bike there. I mean, nothing could keep me away from there. I felt always a sense of peace, as if it was my temple.
Right.
And if I wasn't there, I was usually roaming the bookstores. And again, I don't know if this is cultural or if this is just innate within me, but I do feel that Chinese American families do emphasize education. So my parents, I think, did me a great favor and service by securing for me a library card when I was, just I think barely able to walk.
所以呢，我想呢 ，Iris 给我们观众朋友啊一个非常非常好的一个建议啊，就是说你要把孩子教好的话，在美国呢，最好的方法呢就是什么？带他们到图书馆去，对，从小就带他们到上图书馆，这样的话他们长大就会像 Iris 一样。
Well, I don't know about that. And there was plenty of reading that I did that wasn't always sanctioned by my parents. I remember when my mother would go grocery shopping, I would immediately head over to the book section or the magazine section, and also where they kept all the comic books. And I learned to speed read that way because I only had a limited amount of time before my mother came back, with her cart full. And I must have read some of the worst trash that you could imagine. It was probably where I got my sex education, but I would pick through books and find out which were the most interesting. So, I mean, whenever I could, I got my hands on reading material.
That's a good question, because you just triggered me a question I want to ask, because how do you develop a criteria that you in yourself, you find that which is the way that I can learn, which is the thing that I should treasure? How do you develop? Because when you're young, you don't know. You read everything.
You know what? And I think that's a good thing. You must do it by trial and error. I think it's not healthy for parents to censor their children's reading material. And I have seen it done where, some Chinese American parents will try to encourage their children to, read the classics, Shakespeare or Jane Austen, and they force their children to read that at an age when they wouldn't be able to appreciate it, when they would rather read fantasy and science fiction. And you do not want to kill that impulse in children to read. Let them read whatever they want. They're going to end up reading that eventually. I don't think it's going to scar them for life. Let them do it. And once they develop that habit of reading, they will then become much more discriminating in their tastes. But you cannot kill that impulse by trying to censor them, saying what they may or may not read. But my parents never tried to censor my reading, but I remember I was so addicted to it that even after they turned off the lights, I would try to read through the, from the crack of light under my door.
But your eyes are still okay, or then?
Not that great. So, that was really my best way to escape reality.
What do you think about right now? Okay, in the past, when this is not a computer age, you can do a reading. But seems right now, all the kids that are into the computer business. And what do you think that's going to affect the children's upbringing?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I use computers a great deal, and even as a child, my father, he's a physics professor, he loved computers. He bought computers whenever he could. We had, these these Apple II knockoffs we'd get from Taiwan. So I never thought of computers necessarily as a bad thing. I do think that eventually, technology is always going to be part of our lives. I think what will happen is perhaps in the future there will be computer screens that have the same kind of almost texture or like visual texture as paper, and that will change how we get the information. But I should fear technology.
叫 Michael Honda。今天呢，非常荣幸能访问到 Michael Honda 先生。Mr. Honda, how are you?
Fine, thank you very much.
Yes. Can you tell our audience the reason why, as a Japanese American, you want to propose this kind of bill? Accuse the Japanese government for its atrocity created in Asia in the Second World War.
Well, first of all, we're not accusing Japanese government of atrocities. It did happen.
Mm-hmm.
So two things. One, I believe that when a misdeed is done,
mm-hmm.
there should be an apology
mm-hmm.
and an effort to have redress to that.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that public pressure has to be brought upon the Japanese government
mm-hmm.
in order for them to realize that there's a public sentiment
mm-hmm.
that this is the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm. It seems like the Japanese government until now still kind of reluctant, at least we should say, that to recognize all the mistakes they have done in the Second World War. So this kind of bill, what kind of effect do you think will propose for the Japanese government?
Well, I think that any government that has committed some wrongs in the past is reluctant to own up to it. The United States is no different.
Mm-hmm.
Germany was no different. But Germany and the United States had faced up to their own mistakes, and I think Japan at this time can do that. They're a very mature democratic country,
mm-hmm.
and it's time to do that. And I think that the Diet, the federal government of Japan, needs to do that very clearly and unambiguously.
But as a Japanese American, do you feel any pressure when you propose this kind of bill to the California Congress that, do you have any pressure when you propose this kind of bill from Japan, from whatever side?
Well, yes. I spoke to the Consul General, Tanaka,
mm-hmm.
and he was not very pleased. He was very anxious about it.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some members of the community that were very anxious about it also, and they would rather that I didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I just felt that it was the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we did that in this country when the Japanese American asked the U.S. government to apologize and also provide reparations to the Japanese Americans who put in concentration camps during World War II.
Mm-hmm.
So that, based upon civil rights,
mm-hmm.
it's the same effort based upon human rights in overseas.
If you are elected as a congressman in November, what are you going to do? What's your plan?
Well, there are certain things happening already in Congress. Before, there's a couple of Congress people already putting before the Congress House resolutions in the same vein.
Mm-hmm.
I would support that. I would continue to support them and help them move that resolution through.
Mm-hmm.
Senator Feinstein has a bill,
mm-hmm.
1902, asking for more information around Unit 751, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that those are all issues that we need to face and look at and examine the facts of the past and be able to understand the past so that we don't make the same mistakes in the future.